Hey everyone, I'm Allison. I have a master's degree in intercultural relations and I'm studying for a PhD in intercultural relations. I've been an immigrant in South Korea since 2020 and I plan to stay here permanently. I want to talk about something today. So, the topic of the video is some of the ways English speaking Koreans and overseas Koreans dodge accountability and perpetuate a self made narrative of victimization. Jesus, that's a long one. Okay. So, I wrote in my script that it sounds harsh, but please keep in mind I'm not saying all Koreans and overseas Koreans do this. That's really important. It's not all of y'all. It's not all of them. It's not all of the people, right? It's just really common, and I see it a lot in discourse, both online and in person. There's a lot of blockage of progress and like improvement for the lives of Koreans and overseas Koreans and everyone in general regarding Korea about this. But first we're going to start with some definitions. I'm going to put them on the screen either here or here somewhere as I talk about them. I've just typed these up real quick. I haven't like used any sources or anything. I've just typed them up and I'm going to put them on there. So a Korean refers to a person. It's a person of Korean ethnicity who's born and raised in Korea. Even if they're not born in Korea, if they're raised in Korea and they have Korean citizenship, that counts as Korean. Okay. Overseas Korean is a person who is of Korean ethnicity who is raised outside of Korea. Doesn't really matter if they're born in Korea, if they were raised outside of the society, they are overseas Korean. And this is not a distinction that I'm making. This is a distinction that Korea makes. Jesus, I'm sorry. Like Korea as a country and as a society, they make this distinction themselves. Sorry about the indigestion. Okay, Gilpo is the Korean word for overseas Korean. So I'm probably going to say Gilpo because it's less syllables than overseas Korean. In that case, it just means the same thing as overseas Korean. If you know anything about K-pop, for example, Jay Park is an overseas Korean because he was born and raised in the US and he is of Korean descent. Whether or not he lives in Korea now or engages with Korea now, it doesn't matter. He is of Korean ethnicity, Korean descent, and he was raised outside of Korea. If you know anything about NCT, Johnny is also Korean American. He is overseas Korean, but he lives in Korea now. Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk about Koreaboo. There's two types. Type 1 is a person who's obsessed with Korean pop culture. This is what you're thinking of. When I say Koreaboo, this is what you imagine. A Koreaboo type 2 is a person who stands Korea and will defend Korea and Koreans to the death, figuratively. They're basically like a pick-me foreigner in Korea. They'll go around with the attitude of like, oh, I'm not like those other foreigners. I learned Korean right away, or I learned Korean before I came here, or like, oh, I don't like K-pop. I'm not one of those foreigners. That's the kind of dumbass vibe. They find it to be a point of pride that they've assimilated and also don't like K-pop and K-dramas because they don't want to be like type 1 Koreaboo. They want to be like a normal girl. They're not looking for a Korean boyfriend, but they are. Type 2 Koreaboo is oftentimes a more mature version of a type 1. They come to Korea as a type 1, realize, ooh, not the move, and then they go to type 2. Boys do it too, but typically they don't have the type of pressure to not be or to be a Koreaboo that a lot of the female and women have here. So it's quite difficult. Okay. So the next one is self-made victimization and victim mindset. Now, I know these are used very badly against people of color and black people all the time. That is not the way I'm using it. I'm using this specifically as a genuine term, which is exactly what it means, right? It's not a gaslighting someone who's actually experiencing systemic discrimination and going, you're just feeling bad because you were making it up. No, this is like you're going out and you're seeking mistreatment so you can feel like a victim. That's what it is. I wrote down here a genuine desire to be a victim, searching for victimhood, insecurity and unwillingness. seeking reasons to feel persecuted, and it's likely a deeper psychological thing regarding insecurity and unwillingness to take accountability. That's like it's actually like an issue. A lot of examples today are kind of testy. I would say, like Christian nationalists in the U.S. They're claiming that Christians are being persecuted. No, you're not. You're literally fine. But they're claiming that they are, and so then they'll go into I choked. And they'll go into like very, very, very like left or center spaces and espouse a bunch of crazy shit, like right wing and biblical shit, and then they'll be like shoved out of the room or like excluded from the room, and they're like, why won't you let me in? You're so uninclusive. We're not welcome anywhere. We're gonna have to go back to drawing the Jesus fish to find each other again. Christianity is illegal. COVID-19, like crazy shit. That's the type of thing I'm talking about. And a lot of Koreans, overseas Koreans and Koreaboos do this on behalf of Korea and Koreans. Hold on 1 minute. No. My chair cushion, I have like a little pillow underneath me on top of my chair seat because the chair's really hard. And it like folded up. I was like, I can't fix it. I don't want to stand up. I have my legs crossed on my chair. Okay, so the last one is DARVO, D-A-R-V-O. This is an emotional abuse tactic. It's used intentionally or unintentionally. It can be used unintentionally. That flips the offender into the victim. So it stands for deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So basically, we're going to talk about a specific example in the Reddit post that we're going to talk about today. Later, but keep in mind that's what that is. So it's basically like someone hurts you, and then you're like, why would you do that to me? That's so hurtful. And then the other person goes, well, you always hurt me. Here's all the reasons why you hurt me. I never did anything to you. You're just a stupid bitch, or whatever. It could be in any order. It's just those three things. You're denying that you did anything wrong. You're attacking the person who accused you of doing something wrong. And then you are making yourself into the victim by manipulating the situation. Not like actually getting yourself smacked or something. No, by like twisting it into like where you're in a position where now if the other person continues standing firm and being like, no, you hurt me, they look like an asshole. It's really common in narcissistic abuse, and it's also really common that goes hand in hand with physical abuse, typically in a relationship, like a DV situation. It's really, really scary. I've been the victim of it a lot, and I know how to identify it. Like, even before I realize it's DARVO, there's like, in my brain, it goes, ooh, something's wrong. No, bad feeling, bad vibe, yuck. And so I know. Like, I can tell, unfortunately, because it's experience. So we're going to talk about the DARVO tactics. I'm going to quote some of the things that happened in the Reddit post, but you don't really need to know what happened in the Reddit post exactly. I'll give the context that's necessary. The first way that these types of people will try to like get out of a being cornered because they're wrong in a discussion is deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender, which is DARVO. We talked about that like just a couple minutes ago. You know what it is. This is a direct example with quotes. So EE, the original poster, said, I never said criticism of Korea is anti-Korea sentiment. Sure. I never said you did either. SK is me, and EE is the OP. Okay, so I never said that. They did. I said, some people say this, so I'm asking you more detail about your question so that you can like show me which one you are. Are you someone reading these comments that you're talking about in the original post? You'll know what it means later. Reliably, or are you reading them from a place of defensiveness? Because yeah, if you read a comment that says, I don't feel bad that Koreans are dying because they've made their own bed, they should lie in it, in regards to the low birth rate and the high suicide rate. Yeah, that's mean, but it's not hateful. It's just like, I don't they are refusing to fix what's wrong with their society that's causing this to happen, and they're choosing to actively make it worse at every turn. And so I no longer have the space for sympathy for them. It is what it is. They're going to do it. They're either going to survive or they're not. It's not our place to make them swim. If they want to sink, they're going to sink. Can't save everybody, right? Like, that's just like a realistic, maybe like a negative, slightly negative, but realistic viewpoint, right? Some people say that, but then this person, this OP in this case, actually is the type of Korean to then be like, you want us to all die in the gas chambers? Like, that's the over dramatization, because they've taken, we're not going to hold your hand and do everything for you and walk with you and love you regardless of how you behave, as we hate you and hope you die. Like, it's absolutely delusion. So, of course, I had to make sure with these questions, is this what this person is doing? Or are these questions, these comments, these issues they're talking about online in another platform actually valid hate comments? I'm curious. I want to know. Because I don't think that I could smell from the post that this person was not a reliable narrator. And I was just kind of like trying to dig and see if they would explain their own processes to me. I was kind of starting shit, basically. But I never said anything about this person being someone who does that, even though I kind of knew that they were. I never said anything about it. In fact, I directly validated them in ways that I didn't actually mean, just to avoid conflict while I was trying to get more information from them. And then I said, again, I'm not asking because I'm doubting you. I don't doubt you at all. These are snippets from other conversations, so it's a little bit disjointed, but these are examples of my reassuring words, and then them denying that something happened, right? And I said, in reality, a lot of those comments are just commentary about Korea's own complacency with its own societal problems regarding low birth rate, high suicide rate, and destruction, rather than the outright desire for Korea to be wiped off the map. That's a direct quote from what I said. I'm saying, this is sometimes what those comments are about, and sometimes some people read them as hateful. And then this person replied with, yes, we do have high suicide rate, but thanks for saying we should disappear. I never said that. I said, in some situations, this is what those comments are saying. In some situations, this is what those comments are saying. Which one is it that you're seeing? And they took it to mean that I was telling them that they should die. So they're now the victim, because I've now told them they should die. In their mind. And then the OP said, would Americans feel okay if I comment America should be gone in every post about school pew pew, right? That's the attack. Because what the fuck is that? That's not a comparison. If you look at the video with the actual Reddit post commentary on it, you will be like, what on earth? It's wildly out of pocket. They also compared Korea's criticism about Korea's obsession with plastic surgery, which is a real thing in society that Koreans also acknowledge, to criticism making fun of the Epstein files. Not the same thing. Yeah. And then they complained with a third party, another commenter, about me being a Korea hater. Because I was being objective and asking questions, making them think about why they're thinking what they're thinking, and they didn't like that. And then EE, or the OP, was talking about me and said that this fucker deleted the comment and then followed me to another post in a different subreddit to then reply to my comments, again accusing me of deleting the comment when I didn't. And thus the cycle of Darvo begins again. So they can happen out of order. But so first they denied that they are a type of person, that they think that way, when nobody really said they were, but that's not a prerequisite. They denied saying or thinking something, and then I showed proof that I was being very reassuring and I was like not doubting them. I was like being very gentle with them. And then they then made themselves a victim because they felt they tried to be like lay down and pretend to be dead and be pitiful and be like, oh, but you said I should die. And I didn't. But okay. And the reason that I never, if you look at the video where I go through the thread and everything, you'll see that I never claimed that I didn't say that, because that is the trap they want you to fall into, to get into a circular argument, so then they can claim you're doing Darvo. That's literally, it's a trap. They'll Darvo you with Darvo, right? It's crazy. So they then make themselves the victim and be like, oh, but thank you for saying you hate our existence. I hope that audio effect came up on the microphone, because that would be kind of funny. It is how I'm trying to make it sound. And then they're like, oh, well, how would you like it if we made fun of your dead children? Like, hey, are you possessed by a spirit? Because you're spooking the hell out of me. Knock that off. That's crazy behavior. Erratic and insane behavior, okay? And then they go on and aggress me again. So they're denying it in the beginning. Then they're becoming the victim and making me the offender. And then they're attacking. So it can be in any order, really, but it usually starts with denial, and then they feel called out, and they don't like that, and they get uncomfy, and they get kind of squirmy. And so they'll either attack you back, or they'll pretend to be the victim. And then it's literally like when there's an argument between a married couple, and then the woman reveals that she's going to file for divorce, and suddenly the man isn't like hulking over her and being aggressive anymore. Suddenly he's curled up on a ball on the floor, fake crying like a toddler, to look like a victim, to make her feel bad for him, and then give in and go, I'm sorry, I'm a horrible, mean bitch, and I shouldn't have done that. I'll cancel the divorce right now. And then he gets what he wants. And then he gets to hold that over her head and be like, you made me so sad for so long. I'll never heal from that wound. Like, that's what they're doing, right? They're trying to get an in as a victim so they can then claim victimhood. First of all, blame you for being a bad person. Get evidence or proof or whatever that you're a bad person. Get an apology from you so they can be like, you did something bad, and you know you did something bad because you had to apologize, so they have ammo in the next fight. And they're trying to then get, like, validation that they're trying to stop the accusations against them, basically. Like security and safety in the fight, because now the attention is on what you've done to them instead of what they already did to you. You are waiting up late, your husband walks in, he's been cheating on you, you know that he's been cheating on you, he knows that you know he's been cheating on you, and then you yell at him, and then he's like, don't yell at me, you know that makes me sad. Or he's like, you're going to wake up the baby. Now you're the crazy bad guy, right? It's exactly what men do against women when they call women crazy for reacting in a reasonable way to shithouse behavior from the man over time. That's exactly what that is. That's Darvo. There are different types of Darvo. Many things fall under the umbrella of Darvo. A lot of these things in the list of excuses for how they will get out of these arguments is also falling under Darvo, but Darvo is like the general umbrella that is good to know when you're discussing this type of topic. Deflection via blaming another is the next one. So they'll say, but country does that too. So deflecting the blame away from Korea by saying, well, yeah, we do it, but like they also do it. They do it too. They do it too. They're bad too. Oh, they do it too. That doesn't change anything. We're talking about you right now. Or they'll be like, oh, but they do it even more. And then there was at one point a discussion in another, like a Facebook comment section, talking about like stolen dishes, so in like cuisines, like where a country will like co-opt and like steal and then claim it as their own. Where Korea has decided that ramen is totally different from ramyeon. Ramen is the Korean version, and ramen is the Japanese version. And ramyeon is literally Japanese dried packet ramen, cooked, usually in like a spicier broth, but sometimes not. And then instead of doing a soft-boiled egg, they'll just poach the egg in the broth as the noodles are cooking. And then they'll like slap a couple of pieces of American cheese on top. And that's a totally different dish, and it is 100% a Korean dish now. And I was like, that is nut house behavior. That is not logic. That's crazy. You took that, it's a fusion dish, and it's okay to share. You don't need to steal. And then a guy in the comments came and said, but China steals people's cuisines all the time. Remember when they claimed that kimchi was Chinese? I'm like, that's not the discussion we're having in any capacity. But the discussion was then diverted from that because I was the only one trying to hold them to the discussion about ramyun versus ramen. Every other commenter was then being like, you're insane. He successfully got everyone off track of criticizing Korea for that. And then it turned into a big argument that made my side originally look kind of crazy because some crazy people came in and were saying like hateful things against Korea for taking for talking against China. It was successful. And so I was like, but the criticism about Korea stealing the concept of ramen is still valid, but it never got discussed after that because this guy successfully diverted the conversation away from Korean accountability and onto Chinese hatefulness towards Korea, which is really fucking annoying because both are a problem and both need to be addressed, and neither will ever get addressed because of the way the Koreans handle it. I don't know how Chinese people handle it. I've never interacted with them on Facebook. It's fine. They might be just as bad. I don't know. And the next way they do it is claiming ignorance. But Koreans don't know any better. Oh, but Korea was isolated for so long. We're the hermit kingdom. You have had foreigners in your country. You've had the internet. You've had so much access to the outside world. In the 1800s, y'all had visitors from Saudi Arabia and Europe. And I think even the US. You have an entire... I've been to a cemetery because they have a family with my last name. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they're my relatives. I'll go to the cemetery and just pay respects one day when I have time. And I did. They have a whole cemetery of foreign missionaries who improved the country of Korea. Many of those gravestones long predate the war in the 50s. The 1950s. Some of those tombstones are there from the 1800s when the Japanese occupation was going strong. Y'all are not new to the rest of the world. You've known. You're choosing ignorance right now as an excuse because there's really no comeback to that other than saying the facts that I say, which most people don't know, especially when they're heated in an online argument or an in-person argument especially, so that you can claim ignorance typically in regards to racism against black people. You're not doing blackface because you didn't know any better. You're doing blackface because you're racist and you don't want to admit that. Call the police about it. Sorry, I'm really pissed off about it. The next way that they do this is sympathy grabs. But Korea was under brutal occupation for so long. If you looked at the Reddit thread one, you saw the person doing this. In there, they brought, when they were thoroughly whooped by both me and somebody else, they said in the same breath, Korea was under genocidal occupation for so long, and I'm so proud of my country, and I'm okay with Korea being criticized, but you need to stay in line when you do it. Psycho behavior. That was what that was. They claimed ignorance. It's kind of like an appeal to authority, or they claimed ignorance. They did a sympathy grab. It's kind of like an appeal to authority in a sense, but it's an appeal to trauma. Another example of this is like, but Korea was under such awful abuse. Korea got such awful abuse from Japan and China. Oh, no. It's like, that does not mean that it's okay for you to be racist with black people. That has nothing to do with that. Shut the fuck up and apologize. Goddamn. The next way that they do it is language barrier. They'll suddenly not speak English anymore once they get called out. This actually happened to me. I there's a combination of two of them. It's not the next one, but it's the one after that, and this one. So like the angry foreigner, the scary foreigner, plus the language barrier. They usually do them in combination. Some of them are good pairs, and so there was a medical receptionist lady who was just fucking lying to me to avoid having to help me get treatment for a very serious and time sensitive health issue that could have killed me. She didn't end up treating me. I had to go somewhere else. They didn't end up treating me either. I just had to figure it out on my own, and luckily I didn't fucking die. Jesus Christ. So I called her out, and I was like, that's not even true, though. That's illegal in Korea. That's not real information, and you're lying to me, and I would like to know your name. As a medical professional, I would like to know your name, and I'd like to know the name and the medical license number, which is public information, of every doctor that has allowed you to say this to me. And then she was like, but I don't know what you say. Like, she was fluent in English. Like, she lived in America for years. I talked with her for hours that day at the office. And she was fluent in English. She lived in America for several years. She, like, graduated from a university in America. And then was like, I don't know what to say. Oh, no say, no English. Like, she did a bad Korean accent. Like, she doesn't know how to fake a Korean accent because she doesn't have one in English because she's fluent in English. Use the excuse of not knowing English. You're like, oh, but I don't know. I have an audio recording of it happening. I'm so glad I do because I felt insane. And then she accused me of being aggressive, which we'll get to that. The next way that they often try to do it is by doing the Korean culture route. And I say that because it's not actually a representation of Korean culture. It's using the fact that you're from a different heritage and culture than the person who's rightfully criticizing you or discussing things with you that you don't like, as an excuse to basically shut down the conversation, because people don't want to be offensive to someone's culture, you know? And so blaming any offensive or inadequate behavior on Korean culture. At one point, I had a boss that was just straight up invading my home and violating my labor rights as well. And then they said that it was just Korean culture. That same boss fed my coworker, who is like known to be deathly allergic to shrimp, a shrimp. And they said, oh, it's just Korean culture. To kill people in a kindergarten? It's a weird cultural trait. It's a weird tradition to do on a Tuesday. That's your culture? Get a new culture. That's terrible. That's not culture. I studied culture. I have a degree. I have a graduate fucking degree in culture. That's not what culture is. That is an excuse for your bullshit behavior, so you don't have to take ownership of what you just did. Because, oh my god, you almost killed someone. You're doing real ass crimes out here, ma'am. That's crazy. Another time I was told, oh, it's just Korean culture, was when a man was molesting me. Straight up sexually assaulting me. And we're like, oh, it's just Korean culture, we're very touchy people. No. Not in those places. Koreans are not touchy people. It is not a sexual activity on the subway kind of culture. In fact, it is very much an anti-that culture. Yuck. And you get a bonus point if you get a conversation with someone like this, and then they get defensive if you, as a foreigner, correct them about Korean culture. They really don't fucking like that. Okay, next one is the angry foreigner or the scary foreigner. It's similar to, but not the same as, obviously. There's different societal implications, but the mechanisms are similar to the angry black woman trope. They will call you aggressive in order to, like, go, oh, I'm so scared for my life. You're so scary. They just slapped your child, and they're like, oh, but you're yelling at me and scaring me. To hell with ye. Immediately. Get the fuck out of my house. Yuck. So this is basically calling foreigners who call them out aggressive, scary, mean, racist, or any other term that paints them out to be an aggressor or smears their reputation, so that any kind of like valid, firm discussion with them seems aggressive to other people reading it or hearing it. It's basically a throw yourself on the floor and start crying and claiming to the police officer that the man touched you when he's all the way across the park. You just don't like that he's there. Yikes. This one works if you do it back to Koreans, though. I mean, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm having a good time right now. Oh, sorry. Okay. The last one is just like straight up insults. They'll just fucking insult you. They'll say slurs. They'll just like insult. They'll just fully insult you. If you saw the Reddit thread video already, the person that I called out and thoroughly ended in the debate, basically, like I was right and they were wrong, and they had no recourse to claim that they were right, basically. And somebody else agreed with me and was like, yeah, no, this guy's just a weirdo. The person that I shut down basically called me a fucker and accused me of deleting a comment that is still publicly accessible on Reddit. Not deleted at all. Crazy people. And so then they started like just insulting me, just calling me racist, calling me a Korea hater, calling me a dumb American, like calling me a stupid Western. I think they meant Westerner, but they said Western. Like just like being mean. You're just bullying me. 'Cause you were wrong and I was right, and now you're having a tantrum. Stomp your feet and cry, I guess. LBH, or loser back home, is one that's really common in the Gilpo community. So if you see that person is a Gilpo and they're in a weird incel-like Gilpo forum where they hate non-Gilpo foreigners in Korea. They hate us. They're like, because Gilpos have a weird middle place in Korea where they're foreigners, but they're also Koreans. So they have extremely unreasonable standards to live up to as Koreans, but they're never treated as Koreans. They're always treated as foreigners, even if they like assimilate perfectly and you can't really tell that they're Gilpos. They will never be good enough to the Koreans because the Koreans are so xenophobic that they can always sniff it out. Like they know. And obviously not all Koreans. That's a given when speaking about any group of people. We're not talking about all of them. Obviously. Yeah, so that is it, basically. I'm so tired. Okay, so let's talk about the post specifically that I want to talk about. I'm going to put it up somewhere on the screen in screenshot form. I have it in not screenshot form, but we're going to do this. And it's going to be a bit messy because it is in individual screenshots on my computer, because if I look at the recording or the app on my phone, it will stop the video recording. Alright, so here's the post. It's by someone called iEmpty. I'm not going to say the numbers on the usernames because that's annoying. So iEmpty. Anti-Korean posts make me feel so sad and angry. Already not starting in a good place. It's going to get worse with the first sentence. I have been on Twitter recently and interacted with different kinds of people on there. It makes me feel angry that so many people have this distorted perception of South Korea. I feel like West views Korea not as a place where people actually live, but as a video game where they can just gossip about. Additionally, fellow East Asians having this hatred towards us isn't helping me. Don't get me wrong, I am aware that East Asians hate each other. Korean community is also known for shitting on Japanese and Chinese. But seems like the hatred that Japanese and Chinese have towards us is just so twisted that sometimes I am even surprised. Especially Chinese netizens. Oh my god, sorry. Saying stuff like our entire history is just being slaves, or that we have no culture. I also saw some Chinese netizens on Twitter saying stuff like Korean women is known for being sex slaves. It makes me just so sad that we are viewed this way. It's not like we committed war crimes during World War II like Japan. Or our government is harassing different countries like China's. Why do you think this happened? Or how should we handle this? This is on r/Korea. Okay. Sorry, that last part was very, very funny to me. Okay. This person's first language is not English. It has come out in the comments, or the whatever. We're gonna say comments. I don't know what Reddit calls it. It doesn't fucking matter. In the comments that they are Korean, and they are, very mean about it. They're like, I am Korean, bitch. Like, crazy stuff. Okay. Anyway, this person flies off the handle, like, way too quick. And you're going to see later why I hate this person. Like, genuinely, this person is a psychotic person and they need to, like, get help. Like, they're unwell. But that's part of the issue is, like, so many people that will engage in discourse with you about Korea are like this, and it's scary. It's they fly up the handle and start saying insane shit almost immediately when you say something that makes them think critically about their country. Other Korean people are fine, but some are just like, Jesus Christ, you need to log off. First and foremost, you need to log off and walk to the nearest psychiatrist and get diagnosed with whatever you have. No shame in that. I've got some, right? And then go to a talk therapist and just let it out. You need help. Like, you're not well. Like, you're miserable. But this person, I'm gonna comment on these things in the post. Okay. First of all, don't fucking go on Twitter. Twitter shits on everyone. Twitter's a bad place. Twitter is the bad place. Don't go there. Don't go there. That's like walking into a Tesla explosion fire and it being like, I got burned. How could this happen? First of all, Elon Musk is the reason for both situations happening. And second of all, you walked right into the bad place and then you got hurt in a way that the bad place is known for hurting you, and now you're upset. You never go on Twitter because you're wanting to have a good day. Subconsciously or consciously, you wanted to be miserable because you were either going on Twitter to get shat upon or to shit upon someone else. There is no regular content scroll on Twitter. It's just drunken fist fights in the front yard of some white family's house. That's all it is. It is the UFC White House yard brawl but it's the fights that were happening in the audience. That's what Twitter is now. There's nothing useful or good or productive about Twitter. It's ads, porn bots, Elon Musk, which is the worst of all, and then just random fights with bots in them fighting each other. Like, most of those people saying anti-Korean things aren't even people saying anything. They're computers that are designed to piss you off because Koreans are so fucking easy to rage bait because they get so defensive so fast. They're so easy to rage bait. And their wild, replies bring in real people who are reading the conversation. Twitter is where you go when you want to have a fight. When you want to have a fight but you don't have a partner to fight with, you go to Twitter and you just start saying shit at people. That's what happens when you want conflict in your life because you're bored, you're miserable, or that's the only way that you know how to get dopamine. Korea. There's people who have made fake food ordering apps so that kids can get the dopamine rush of purchasing something without spending any money. Koreans are miserable because they don't know how to make their own dopamine in their own system. They don't know how to get their own dopamine because they've never been allowed to be a person from the day that they pop out the womb until the day that they're lowered into the ground. They don't have a time to breathe and learn who they are. I was talking to one of my former students about this, actually. She was like, I keep contact with some of my former students that I'm like closer with the families of, and she was like, teacher, I feel sad. And I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, I don't get to play anymore. And I was like, okay, you should get to play, but I can't make your mom do that. You know, like, it's sad. These kids are forced into like 10 to 15 hours of school and homework at all times, which if you're astute, you will know that you don't have 15 hours a day to do stuff and get a full night's sleep. It's one of the problems with Korea, and it's something that is entirely fixable because the regular schooling in Korea is plenty. You don't need extra hagwons, but they send the kids to extra hagwons. For what reason? Status. A status symbol. My kid goes to so many hagwons. My kid studies more hours than your kid. Everything is a competition for no reason here. And that is 100% fixable. You could just stop doing that. It's about as real as the stock market is. It's fucking not. And it affects things as severely as the stock market does. It's catastrophic. Just stop it. But they won't. And if you say that to a person like this poster on Reddit, they will be like, you just hate Korea then, okay? You're just racist. Like, that's not what I said. You'll see in a minute that's what happened. Okay, so I don't know. There's a lot of people right now talking about how people online and like the West, whatever mystic region of the world they mean by that, they just mean like not Korea, Japan, and China, which is not the West, but like whatever. Foreigners just don't know about us, and they have this fucked up idea of us. Why do foreigners have that fucked up idea of you? Because what you put out into the world. Not you, but like Korea as a country. The country has a very strong media bubble over itself, and it prevents anything that it doesn't want from coming in, right? So like a lot of Koreans didn't know that the women's rights were being like stripped away in the US. A lot of Koreans don't know what Trump is actually doing. In the U.S. I'm talking about the U.S. because I'm from the U.S., so I don't really know what's going on around the world, but they know about Iran because they are affected by it because of the lack of ships being able to get through the Strait of Hormuz. But they don't really know anything about Israel and Gaza. That's a choice and a half, goddamn. They really don't know any of that because none of that's being reported on, and none of that is floating around the Korean social medias. So they don't even use Google over here. Fuck Google, by the way, but they don't even use Google over here. They use Naver, which is specifically for Korea, right? They have some non-Korean sites and information that they scrape to put stuff onto Naver, but it's really very, very, very limited because Naver doesn't have the rights to scrape everything like Google does. But Google also doesn't have the rights to scrape a lot of stuff that's on Naver. So if you really want the full story, you have to use both. You probably should use a different platform no matter what. But, like, Koreans have no fucking clue what's going on in the world. Totally. Like, they know some things, but they don't know what's actually going on. They have no idea. I bet that they don't even know about the earthquakes. En masse, I bet the Koreans in Korea don't really know about the earthquakes that just happened in South America. And if they do, they probably heard about it because of the soccer teams during the World Cup and everything, and the people, because they know about soccer, because they follow stuff about Venezuela because they like soccer or whatever, right? It's weird. It's weird how piecemeal the global knowledge is in Korea. And a lot of Koreans, when you ask them, like, why don't you know about global issues? They're like, well, global issues don't affect us. You're part of the globe. You, at one point in the 1950s, you were a global issue. In the 1980s, you were a global issue. Had your personal national issue not gone to the global stage, you would still be an issue. You know what I mean? If you know anything, if you don't know about that, look up May 18th, 1980, South Korea. You don't need to know how to spell anything else. You'll figure that out that way. There was a whole dictatorship, a whole fascist takeover, a whole little mess over there. It was a big fucking deal. A lot of people got killed. Like, it was really bad. And the only reason that it stopped is because video footage of what the dictatorship was doing to one of the cities in Korea got out of Korea and was broadcast on global news. Korea, you were and always will be a global issue, as every other nation on this globe is, and always will be. Unless you can find a way to detach your little tip of your peninsula and your islands and then fly yourself off into space somewhere else, you will be a global issue because this is the globe that we're on, right? Like, we're all affecting each other. Imagine trying to globalize while also not wanting to be a global issue, like, or not wanting to look at global issues. How are you going to globalize? Whatever. That's not a 2 a.m. kind of discussion. Jesus Christ. Okay. So a lot of people are talking about how people like see distorted views of Korea, and like I get the idea of I get where some people are coming from when they're saying like, oh, the colonial mindset where it's like people from like specifically white colonial countries like UK, USA, like white nationalist countries like that, they tend to view non-white countries as like kind of like a playground to go play in and go vacation in. Like, ooh, we're gonna go to Vietnam. Oh my God, look at these little people. Aren't they so cool? Ooh, what do they make at this craft fair? That's a market, and that's that woman's job, right? Like they go and they like do tourism stuff like it's a list of things to check off doing on Animal Crossing, right? And it's not acceptable behavior, or it's also not an acceptable way of thinking about the world. It's like they're looking down in a way that's patronizing and infantilizing, but not necessarily hateful. It's just like, oh my God, look how cute, look at what these other people are doing. It's not good, right? But that's not really what this is about, and that's not what a lot of Koreans are complaining about. A lot of Koreans have taken that very valid point and very valid discussion and co-opted it and made it like nobody knows the real Korea, and then they're saying anyone who has any valid or constructive criticism about Korea, like I just did for like 10 minutes just now, has a distorted view of Korea. I fucking live here. I study here. I got my master's degree in intercultural relations here. I'm working on a PhD in intercultural relations here. I am deeply embedded in the activism and advocacy community here. I have seen what this country truly is, and I have seen what it truly isn't. I have experienced it from the perspective of a homeless person, a student, a language academy student, a teacher and or worker, whatever, both same thing at this point, and as someone who is unemployed and struggling, okay? I have experienced it from the perspective of a woman who is not the majority here. I have experienced it from the position of someone who's a victim of a near violent crime, several in a row. I've experienced it from the perspective of a woman alone who is not the majority racially here, who is on a visa, who has no power at all, who is having their home invaded by someone who is the racial majority here, who is powerful, who is a citizen, who does control my existence. I've experienced it from the perspective of a woman experiencing severe medical malpractice. I've experienced it from the perspective of someone who's a guardian of a child under my care, or a classroom of children under my care. I've experienced it from everything, right? I've done almost everything here except be a citizen and be a parent, okay? And a spouse. I've never been a spouse of someone here. I've done so many things. I've lived here for almost a decade, and I'm trying to make this my permanent home. I am going through just about every experience here on purpose. Because that's what life is like, right? So you can't really tell me that I have a distorted view of Korea. I am in Korea, like not just in the country, in the society. I'm embedded into it. I have experienced everything I talk about. Everything I say is based on direct experience. I'm not chatting out of my ass. Like, this is real. Like, when I say that xenophobia exists in Korea, I'm not just saying it because it's an online buzz phrase. I'm saying it because I have been the victim of it many times from both other foreigners and Koreans and overseas Koreans. It's a weird dynamic. So I feel like a lot of these things there's nuggets of validity in there, but what surrounds it is this like dark dust cloud of just uh denial of accountability, and just like excuses for poor like treatment of other people, and like unwillingness to change, and like the excuses for why they shouldn't have to. 1 minute, I gotta fix my cushion again. And that's why I think it's very funny when a Korean person goes online and goes, "How do you think this? Why do you think this happened? Well, how should we handle this?" Because what they're saying is, "Why do you think people know about us now? Like for real now? Why do you think people know about the issues Korea has now? Because we've been there." A lot of people go to Korea, get chewed up and spit out by Korea, and then leave and then tell people their experiences. In Korea, there's this practice of silence and secrecy where you just never say anything to anyone about the bad things you've experienced. Defamation based on truth is a real crime here. You can actually get in big trouble for saying the truth about something bad that happened to you here, because it could potentially harm the reputation of someone who did the bad thing to you. But because it harmed their reputation and you said it, you've now defamed them. Their concept of defamation is fucking bonkers. They're entitled, according to their own society, everyone in every business here, and including the country, is entitled to a perfectly spotless reputation with nothing to back it up. No merit behind it, no work behind it, no evidence behind it. Literally just, you could be the most evil, satanic motherfucker on the planet, but you are entitled to a spotless, Jesus H. Christ-like reputation. In Korea, and that is a big factor into why a lot of times Korean people and overseas Korean people who are really like there's a different reason behind it for overseas Koreans and Koreaboos, but they all do in the same way. They all kind of like take a note out of each other's book and do it in the same way. They get really defensive if you say anything even true and valid and that could help them about Korea. God forbid you mention anything about Korea, right? That's why I think it's so funny. Why do you think this happened? Why do you think people found out about us for real? Because we went there, and the rest of the world doesn't play that little game. Some countries do, but the majority of the countries in the world, they don't go, "Oh, I had a bad experience at this place. I better shut up about it or they might sue me for defamation because it's true information but it hurt their feelings." That's mostly Korea. And I think also Japan has a similar like weird thing about defamation and reputation. It's an honor and shame culture type of thing, I think, in a lot of ways. But only some of them, not all of them. It's also interesting that she asks, or how should we handle this? How should we handle the fact that people know about Korea? First of all, who's we? And what are you going to do about it? Just log off. It's Twitter. This bitch is on Twitter and Reddit, the two worst fucking places. I bet she has a 4chan too. Yuck. Go off of those sites. Go out into the forest. Go to the park. Pet a dog. Look at a cat. Smile at a baby. Anything, literally anything other than what you're doing. Put your phone in a sewer and never look at it again. That's how you fix it. Like, I'm gonna try to tell people online what to say. Just act normal. Be loudly and proudly Korean, and also loudly and proudly a normal person. Don't be weird like this. She acts really weird coming up. Alright. Next post, I commented and said, "What type of post from the West are you seeing that upset you? You said something about the West seeing Korea as a video game just to gossip about, but then listed examples of how fellow East Asians are being mean. Do you have any examples of non-East Asian comments and posts that upset you?" I ask because there are a lot of hateful things said about Korea by non-East Asian people, but there are also a lot of people who really stand for Korea, who claim that any kind of valid or constructive criticism of Korea is hateful, racist, or bullying. And for context, I'm putting the West in quotation marks not because I'm doubting or mocking you, but because I'm not really sure what the West means since there's no one definition for it. I'm assuming it means non-East Asian because that makes the most sense broadly with your post. I'm being as nice as possible because the second I saw the title of this page, I smelled a rat. I knew this is one of those Koreans that was going to get really pissy about any kind of honest feedback from a non-Korean person about Korea. I knew it was going to be, oh, a foreigner, how are you liking Korea? Oh, it's fine. It's just I'm struggling a little bit with systemic discrimination because I'm not Korean. Oh, go back to your own country then. That's what I knew this was going to be. Because what the fuck? And then it gets crazier. On and on and on. It gets crazier as we go. She says, I was talking about Western countries like America, for example. I think she means USA. I know stuff like plastic surgery or chaebol, which is like the 1% in America, like the elite class, Epstein class, basically. Chaebol are a problem here, but it seems like a lot of Westerners view us as this gameplay that can be rated instead of an actual country. You will not get the answer as to what that means. She does not ever explain it. She goes off the handle before she explains it. I said, what are people saying about chaebol and Korean plastic surgery that's anti-Korean, though? Because Korea... Okay, so if we talk about the beauty standards in the USA, we talk about, let's say we talk about how whiteness is desirable in the US, but everything else is really not. But then when you are like a white person, you desire to be like tan. It's weird. It's really fucking weird. I'm not offended by that. I'm American and I'm white, but I don't do that. That's not about me. That shoe is not mine. I'm not going to try to shove it on my foot. That's also not about the whole country. So no matter what people are saying about plastic surgery in Korea, it's not going to be anti-Korean. It's anti-plastic surgery. Because you know what? Korea existed for thousands of years. Plastic surgery has not. Korea's older than plastic surgery. They weren't doing this type of plastic surgery that everyone's commenting about in like the old times. So like Korea was still there. It wasn't called Korea, but it was Korea. It's not about Korea, girl. It's about what y'all are doing now. In today's day and age, modern Korean society being cracked out as hell about plastic surgery, which is true. There are people who get their face shaped like a gray alien, and they're walking around, and people are like, I want to look like that when I'm older. I'm like, I don't want to live here anymore. I'm so upset. This is weird. It's creepy. It is genuinely uncanny valley and creepy, and I do say that later, but I say it as like an example. So also like chaebol, if someone insults the 1%, like Jeff Bezos and stuff in America, everyone in America, most people from America are gonna be like, yeah, fuck that guy. A bald-headed freak with his weird dick-shaped rockets. Go to Mars and die. Like, almost nobody likes him. Koreans fucking love Elon Musk. In mass, not everyone, but like, they love him. You know why? Because he's rich. A lot of times Koreans, modern day Koreans in modern Korea society, right? They admire the chaebols, but they also are so envious of them. The chaebol is like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk type people. I don't think they're touching kids in such large amounts. I don't think all of the chaebol are doing that. I don't even know of any that have been accused, but to be honest, I don't really know very much about chaebol. I just know what they are, and I've met a few, weirdly enough. Maybe I'll do a story time about that another time. I don't know. It wasn't very, like, I don't know them. I've just, like, been in their house, which is weird. It was for a gig. It was weird. Anyway, but, like, I'll talk more about that another time. But, like, Chaebol are not, like, inherently evil in Korean society, like the Epstein classes. Like, calling them the comparison to the Epstein class is kind of inaccurate, because the Epstein class isn't just, like, mega, like, super wealthy people. It's also, like, very, 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 very bad people that are, like, openly very bad. If you catch my drift. In Chaebol, it's just, like, just super rich, like the wealth dynasties in Korea. It's like the billionaires of Korea, basically. It's like idols are really rich and famous, but they're nowhere near Chaebol. Some idols are Chaebol. They're like kids of Chaebol, but, like, they're not, like the guy who owns Samsung, he's Chaebol. The guy who owns LG, Chaebol, right? His family, his descendants, Chaebol, right? There is a dynasty, okay? And they're all super wealthy and successful. Whatever, Koreans often conflate success with money. And that's why if you insult the Chaebol, a lot of Koreans will be like, you're insulting what we want to be. But everybody can't be Chaebol. It defeats the purpose of having a Chaebol class. You can't all be the 1% most wealthy. You'd be the 100% most wealthy. It's crazy. Anyway, so they're like, what their examples are, they're very shallow and very likely not actually hateful anti-Korean sentiment. They're probably accurate representations of what Korean society is like, but Koreans don't want to hear it because it sounds bad. Because it is bad. Because they won't change. Because they won't hear it, right? So I said, your examples for how mean Chinese and Japanese netizens I had a typo, were very specific. Do you have anything like that for Western comments? I'll include some possible examples at the bottom of this comment for reference. We'll talk about those. And repeating the idea that you believe Westerners view Koreans as gameplay that can be rated doesn't really help, because I don't really know what you mean by that either. I'm not trying to say that people from countries like the USA are not coming at this from a white supremacist colonial mindset and thinking that non-white countries are pawns in a game to play. In fact, many of them are doing that. I'm just saying that I've seen a lot of people from many countries and regions, including Korea, giving valid criticism about Korea that a lot of Koreans take as outright aggression towards Korea. Before I can really understand your post, I need to understand what you're taking as anti-Korean. I'm just very curious, since this aligns with my field of graduate study. I kind of lied, but kind of didn't. I'm thinking of changing my dissertation topic to something like this. Because there's so much data. And it's so easy to farm it. My God. If I say the plastic surgery culture these are the examples I was talking about. If I say the plastic surgery culture in Korea is harmful to the mental health of everyone and is pushing beauty standards that are so damaging, do you take that as anti-Korean? We do not get an answer for that. And if I say some Koreans get so much plastic surgery that they have an uncanny valley look, do you take that as anti-Korean? We do not get an answer to that. Unfortunately. This person says, this is where I first was like, oh, they're not well. This person's IMT said, okay, I first want to make my comment clear. I never said criticism towards Korea was anti-Korean sentiment. I do agree that our beauty standard is toxic. Okay. It's just that I'm seeing a lot of Westerners beginning at criticizing our beauty standards to commenting, I hope you love yourself on random attractive Koreans post, or Korea is a worst place to live, or I hope South Korea disappears, stuff like that. I think what they were saying with beginning at criticizing into, that sentence, I think they were trying to say, ranging from criticizing beauty standards, going all the way into, like, outright saying crazy stuff, right? I hope you love yourself on random attractive Koreans posts. That's what I think that they're seeing is people who don't really know anything about Korea going, hey, bestie, don't listen to the beauty standards of your country. Love yourself because you're beautiful the way you are, which is not anti-Korean sentiment. It's weird, misplaced white saviorism, but it's not even a misconception about Korea, because every single Korean hates themselves. Every single one of them. Because they've been made to believe that they should. Very, 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 very few Koreans do not hate themselves. And those ones are usually drunk as fuck all the time because they're alcoholics, because they do hate themselves, but they can't remember that they hate themselves because they're drunk. Very, 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 very rarely do you ever see a Korean who is not deeply ashamed of some intrinsic aspect of themselves in Korea. It's very sad. And it's because of the pressure that their country has put on them, their society has put on, that they have put on themselves, like they collectively have put on themselves, to attain a certain standard that is not reasonable for anyone. That's not even a misconception. That's a real thing. It's just weird how they're talking about it. The Korea is a worst place to live. That's an opinion. And who is saying that? Is it someone who came here and got horrifically abused by Koreans and then went home? Because I would say that they're valid in saying that, even if it's not nice. Even if it's not the best way to handle their trauma, I don't think that you should tell them that that's just anti-Korean hate. I think that that is not anti-Korean hate. I think that is a expression of their experience. Maybe not a productive expression of their experience, but it's a I don't even remember what I said. It's them talking about what they went through. I forgot what I said immediately. And then if it's someone who hasn't been to Korea at all and they've just heard about Korea, why do they think Korea is a bad place to live? There's so much pro-Korean propaganda going around right now with the Hallyu and everything, like the Korean wave. There's so much like, oh, Koreans are clean. Oh, Koreans are chivalrous. Oh, Koreans are perfect. Right? That's going around. And Koreans, like this person, are dying on every hill defending it. Begging for validation that Korea is perfect, and that any kind of pushback against that is just racism. They're begging and they're living for it, and they're dying for it, and they're gagging for it, and they're begging for it. It's crazy, and it's weird because, like, saying Korea's the worst place to live is not nice objectively. It's also not true objectively. America is pretty shit. It also depends on the person. It's a very subjective thing. The worst, the best, whatever, very subjective. Every time. There's never not a subjective case of those words. They're superlatives from adverbs. Adverbs? No, my god, adjectives. They're adjective-based superlatives. Of course they're going to be subjective. There is no way to be like, oh, well, everyone thinks the same about this. It's not a fact, it's an opinion. Guaranteed. So it's like not nice, but it's not like outright anti-Korea. It could be, but it's not like that alone is not as strong as any of the examples they used as from like the Chinese and Japanese netizens examples. Which now I'm wondering if what they read from the Chinese and Japanese netizens is even what they said they read. The narration is not so reliable here. And then I hope South Korea disappears. That we talk about that later on. That's not what anyone was saying. Nobody was saying that. Nobody was saying that. People were saying that they don't feel bad for Korea with its low birth rate and high suicide rate because it's Koreans' fault for making the society that way and keeping it that way, because they could just like not. It's self-imposed harm. Like, fix it or die. Like, we're so tired of trying to help you. We're so tired of hearing about it. Like, just today, there was a news story about a Korean couple who abandoned 2 babies. because they looked too dark, too foreign. Their own babies. There's no neonatal delivery doctors. A woman on Jeju Island had to be fucking airlifted halfway into the country, mainland, halfway into mainland, halfway up the mainland, a quarter of the way up the peninsula total, on a helicopter in labor from a fucking island because there were no hospitals closer to her in the entire country that had a delivery department that could deliver her baby. Your low birth rate is your fault. Why are there no doctors? Because you've overworked and underpaid them. That's why they went on strike. And you fired and even jailed a lot of the doctors that went on strike. Because you didn't like the fact that they were fighting for their own rights, but they were public servants. Who's the cause of the problem? There's women who are keying cars of mothers who bring children into fertility clinics because those mothers who are keying cars are jealous that other women can have babies. It's bean soup for everyone. Everyone is doing the bean soup thing where it's like, well, I'm at a fertility clinic and I just found out that it's impossible for me to have my own babies. How dare you have a baby in my presence? Hey, babe, go manage yourself at home. Have your outburst in your car and go home. Because now you're going to jail. And you can't have a baby. Oops. The lady with 2 babies has now reported you for the thing that you did under the surveillance state that sees and hears all. Caught you on camera keying her fucking car for having babies because you were jealous that she had babies. Women are afraid to go to the fertility clinic to get IVF treatment because they're not fertile on their own anymore because of the health problems, the beauty standards, and the health issues they have here now that they've given themselves. Because other Koreans are fucking up their vehicles and making it impossible for them and their children to get home. Because other Koreans are jealous. This is not anyone else's problem but y'all. Y'all are doing this to yourselves. Nobody has to care if you die out or not. Obviously, everyone would prefer that you don't. But if you're not going to do anything about it, we have stopped caring about it. That's what most of the people who she's talking about are just saying. Like, I may or may not hold that opinion. Depends on the day. Depends on my mood. Depends on how hungry I am. Honestly. Sometimes I'm like, no, I want to help. And then other times I'm like, they are doing it to themselves. And a lot of times they're self-sabotaging on purpose. Because I think there's insecurity in there that's like making them be like, I'm not worthy. You are. Do what's best for you as a nation. It's really sad. Anyway, that was her examples. And I said, I didn't think that's what you were saying with I didn't say everything about Korea was anti-Korean. And I said, so you, typo, were definitely clear. I was just using those as an example. And I want to make myself clear. I never said that you thought every comment about Korea was anti-Korea. I was just stating that's something I see often so you can know why I'm asking you for examples. I don't want it to seem like I'm accusing you of anything because I'm not. Notice how nice I'm being. I already don't like this person. I already know that they're insane. I'm trying to be as nice and validating and reassuring as possible to see if what they're saying has any merit to it. It doesn't. Shocker. You'll find that out. I'm just genuinely very curious about your specific perspective. I am, but kind of like in a, I know what it is, but I want to hear you say it kind of a way. As for your comments about Westerners seeing Korea as gameplay that can be rated, what does that mean? So far, I'm not really understanding how that fits in with your perspective. We don't get the answer. And as for the examples about someone saying that they hope South Korea disappears and similar examples, is that what they said or is that what you read into what they said? I've caught on now. Again, I'm not asking because I doubt you. I don't doubt you at all. People say insane things online all the time, so I know they do actually say that. Remember I said this, because she's going to go ballistic at me in a minute. I'm asking because I've seen people saying that they hope South Korea dies out, and I've also seen people saying that they don't really feel bad for South Korea because South Korea perpetuates its own societal problems that cause low birth rates and high suicide rates. I've seen a lot of Korean people online taking non-Korean people saying they don't feel bad for Korea's low birth rates and high suicide rates as the non-Koreans wishing death upon Korea. But in reality, a lot of those comments are just commentary about Korea's own complacency with its own societal problems and destruction, rather than outright desire for Korea to be wiped off the map. Saying you need to fix it or shut up is absolutely not the same as being like, eradicate them all, right? That's totally different things. I emptied and says, Korea is a country just like every country. No one said it wasn't. A country that is just looking for solutions. No one said it wasn't. If Westerners just aren't feeling bad for stuff that we caused, because I really don't think commenting Korea should be gone and every post that just talks about Korea's problems is correct. Is that happening, or are you being dramatic? And I see a lot of posts talking about Korea's problems, and that's not there. I see a lot of posts that are talking about Korea's problems, and it should be there, but it's not. Yes, we do have high suicide rate, but thanks for commenting we should disappear. Nobody said that. Where are you getting this? This is where she turns herself into the victim. This is the Darvo. This is the victim part. It feels extremely uncomfortable, and I don't know how to explain this feeling. It's the feeling of being exposed for who you actually are. And it's shame. It's shame for being exposed for what you actually are doing. It's shame. It's shame and embarrassment. And it's a normal human feeling that should prompt you to do some self-reflection. Is this shame because of something I did, or because of the way others were acting about me? Was I the one being shamefully weird, or were they being shamefully mean to me? That's the self-reflection that should be going on. But that self-reflection will never happen. And if it did, it would default to, I'm perfect and they're mean. You'll see it happen in a minute. I just saw on Twitter a Burger King ad showing a K-pop idol. Okay. Cool. And Westerners were commenting stuff like, we have repulsive culture, or that we should just disappear. To be fair, you're on Twitter. Ma'am, get off of Twitter. Everybody on Twitter thinks everybody should die right now. 99% of those were, if not 100%, I haven't checked Twitter in a long time to tell what like the metrics are with that, but all of them, if not most of them, would be bots anyway. Why are you on Twitter? Go offline. And also, when they say Westerners say that Koreans have repulsive culture, they're probably in response to this Burger King ad. They're probably shit-talking the idol culture, where the Koreans will literally jump off a bridge because an idol said so. At one point, there was an idol during COVID, and he had a box of tissues, like, on a live stream, like, right here, but it was, like, on his sofa, so it was next to him, within arm's reach. And then someone commented, oh, check the brand of the tissues that he uses. Let's all go buy them or something, and he slapped it out of the screen because all the tissues were going to be sold out. There was an idol who got in trouble, socially shamed because he said, "Oh, I went to a burger shop in my hometown today and I really liked it. Thank you to the shop for serving us so nicely." Not a paid partnership, not an ad. It was like he just, like, a fan worked there and reached out to him. It was like, "Hey, we live in your hometown and we work here. We just opened a new location. If you want to order from us, we would love to, like, serve you something, give you, like, something or whatever, like, give you, like, a free side or something." And then he was like, "Oh my god, thank you so much for this." And then he didn't even say the name of it. I think he just posted a picture of the meal that he ate, and the shop had to be like, "Take that shit right down, sir," because within 24 hours, within 12 hours really, the shop was so full that they were past fire capacity in the shop, and they had orders backed up for hours at a fucking, like, a McDonald's type of place. They had to turn people down. All of the delivery drivers in the city were working for this one place. Koreans are so easily influenced because they've learned to look up to people who have something they don't have, because of the societal standards and everything. It's like a whole thing. It's like a whole mess. So I think that's probably more of what they're commenting on, is like idols are used to sell everything, because like celebrities are king in Korea, even more so than in America. And then this girl goes, she does the attack phase after she does the victim phase. She goes, "Would Americans feel okay if I comment America should be gone in every post that talks about school shootings?" Bestie, you saw a Burger King ad with some comments that hurt your feelings, and then you're like disrespecting the child victims of school shootings. Later, she'll go on to compare people criticizing the high rates of plastic surgery in Korea to the fucking Epstein files. Like, she really thinks that they're on par. Also, if you comment America shouldn't exist under any post about anything bad happening in America, everyone will agree with you. Americans included. They're like, "Get us out of here, get us out of here, get us out of here, kill us all, please, just drown us, sink it in the ocean, Florida first." Like, literally, they do not like their country because a lot of us are leaving, right? All right, and then she says, "Or should I make fun of Epstein files? Just like how Westerners make fun of Korea's high plastic surgery rate." Try it. Go online and try it. Go on twitter.com and try it. Fucking try it. The hate crimes that await you are not my problem. That's fucking crazy. I replied and said, "You didn't answer any of my questions, and you've taken my very neutral comment as anti-Korea. So I guess that confirmed that you are one of those overly sensitive Koreans who takes any sort of commentary about Korea that isn't glowingly positive as hate. I wonder how many of these anti-Korea posts you've seen are really just valid commentary and criticism about Korea that you've defensively read as hateful. If I were to offer any advice for you, I would suggest that learning how to see things from a neutral, objective perspective is very helpful in lowering stress, facilitating productive communication, and avoiding falling into this near-narcissistic self-victimization cycle that many incels and perpetually offended Koreans, because it's not all of them who are like this, just the ones who are perpetually offended, right, seem to get trapped in. But since it seems that you're feeling a little bit defensive about this, it may start to become irrational due to the emotional nature of defensiveness." I fucking hate myself. I'm gonna disengage. I'm not looking for an argument with someone who's seeking persecution and victimhood, especially not one who can't even be constructively criticized. But in good news for me, lol, you did just validate a huge part of my graduate studies data about modern Koreans taking discussions that they feel uncomfy in as racism, anti-Korean hatred, or persecution. Had I been on Reddit as a kid, I would have done so much damage. And then IMD said, if you need any help, I can actually do a full service for you for your graduation paper. A full service? Yeah, you can write it for me, bitch. Do it. For your graduation paper, I have a lot to talk about this subject. Yeah, I'm sure you fucking do. English isn't my first language, so I might have missed some things while reading. Missed? You got called out for being a nutcase, and you're like, I might have missed some things you said. Yeah, you did, on purpose. You stupid freak. Okay, sorry. And as for the point that we are somehow uncomfortable to discuss our own problems, Koreans, she's referring to, you are actually quite wrong. This can easily be debunked if you look at the K-dramas that had a huge success in Korea. I'm crying. Like, teach you a lesson or Squid Game. It seems like the stereotype that Koreans had for Westerns are actually right. You guys are rude as hell and stupid. There are tears in my eyes. Oh. My nervous system is kicking in because I'm stressed. It's fucking me up emotionally. Oh my god. You know what Korea did with Squid Game? The Squid Game, you know, the K-drama that's notoriously like a commentary about how evil capitalism is. You know what Korea did? They fucking capitalized on it. There were Squid Game scavenger hunts for tourists in Seoul. Burger King was selling Squid Game like shape, you know, like the business cards that has a shape on it. I never watched Squid Game. I just saw the things because I had to, because they were everywhere, because they were on every fucking advertisement the years it came out. They had, you know, the chicken rings at Burger King. They had the Squid Game shaped ones. They had the dalgona in the shapes of the umbrella everywhere. They had they still sell those fucking tracksuits everywhere. Koreans didn't use Squid Game to adequately discuss their own problems. They used it in exactly the way that the creator of the show knew his people would use it. For evil. Also, to say that Koreans are good at discussing their own self-shortcomings because K-dramas are successful and there's problems in some K-dramas is crazy. Because the second this conversation right now is evidence that you are shit at discussing your own problems. Because you get really, really, really offended when anyone but yourself brings them up. I have literally heard Koreans talking about how there's problems in their own society. And then if I go, yeah, I agree that is a problem, suddenly it's not a problem anymore and I'm just racist against Koreans. And I'm not talking about butting into things that aren't about me. I'm talking about how plastic surgery is making little girls anorexic. It is. It is. It's making little girls develop eating disorders on purpose, okay? It is. And there were two Korean women that I know very well who were talking about this. And then I was like, yeah, I agree, it's really unhealthy. And then they were suddenly like, that's really crazy of you to say. And I was like, I was just agreeing with everything you just said. But because it was a non-Korean talking about Korea, they locked down and will not allow any discussion. And then, in order to save face, They stand by what they said in defense of the problem they were just talking about. They stand by it until the end of fucking time. The most stubborn people on this earth are Koreans. And that's a good thing in a lot of ways and a bad thing in a lot of other ways. As a stubborn person myself, you need to know when to use it and when to not use it. They don't seem to know when to not use it because it's whatever protects their pride. And you'll see exactly here, this psychopath is saying that Squid Game was Korea as a nation discussing the problems with capitalism in Korea. And she then later, you'll see it in the screenshot, she accused me of deleting a comment that I did not fucking delete. And then she went on to another subreddit and replied to another comment that a different commenter on this subreddit had tipped her off about. And harassed me on that. You'll see this too. And harassed me on there. And then on there, in two subreddits, she has now embarrassed herself by accusing me of deleting a comment that is clearly still on the fucking subreddit. Because she doesn't know how to use Reddit. I don't either, but you just click on all the replies. Anyway, sorry. Then I said, this isn't the serve you think it is, my guy, but since you're accusing me, falsely, which is illegal here, as you know, of being hateful and against Korea, I'm not going to try to teach a grown-ass adult why this is only proving all those other anti-Korea posts online to be correct. I have a typo in Korea, but it doesn't matter. My dog's licking his mouth. It's making me mad. Okay. The pissy Koreans, because it's only the pissy Koreans, not all of them. Defensiveness never fails to make you look anti-intellectual. Go on and self-destruct, king. King or queen, doesn't matter. Royal. Okay. That was the original post. You can see examples of exactly what I was saying. There's a secondary thing that happened in the replies underneath all of that. C-City said, Epstein file... no, that's the wrong one. Okay. Disregard that. I'm not going to put that on the screen. Here we go. This is the original beginning. So C-City says, or should I make fun, quoting, or should I make fun of Epstein files just like how Westerners make fun of Korea's high plastic surgery rate? That was a quote from IMT. C-City then says, yes, because child trafficking, assault against minors, and child exploitation is absolutely comparable to the popularity of elective surgical procedures. A well thought out comparison indeed. Sarcastic, obviously. IMT said, my point wasn't trying to say Korea's plastic surgery issue was equal as Epstein files. Okay. I do feel sorrow for the victims and wish that Americans would put Trump in jail. Oh, first good take of the day. I apologize if my comment came out inconsiderate toward the victims. I'm sorry if is not an apology. I was trying to compare situations how Westerners treat Korea versus how they treat other issues. I don't know exactly. I don't have the words for what's wrong with that, but something is deeply wrong with it. Then this C-City quotes them again and says, my point wasn't trying to say Korea's plastic surgery issue was equal as Epstein files. Quotes them again and says, or should I just make fun of Epstein files just like how Westerners make fun of Korea's high plastic surgery rate? And then they said, again, your exact words were just like how, which indicates a clear comparison. Point being, maybe how you phrase things and how people interpret them maybe leads to misunderstanding, which then leads to your sadness and anger. I find that if your words and thoughts are well thought out, generally speaking, others will follow. Now, I want to make a point on this because IMT's excuse, which is an excuse, is that I don't know English very good. I don't English very good. I don't English so good. No. You were confident enough in your English to write this whole discussion and try to have a conversation with the foreigners in Korea about how to fix it. Yup. But when you say just like in Korea, whatever that would translate to, or whatever the teachers would have taught them to say in equivalent to that in Korean, it does mean it's equal to. No matter what, those two issues are not the same. That's like saying, oh, you tripped and fell, so I laughed at you. Or, no, I tripped and fell and you laughed at me. How would you like it if you got shot with a gun and I laughed at you at your funeral in front of your whole family? Like, one is way worse. Yeah, don't laugh at your friends when they trip and fall. That's mean. Help them, right? But also, it's not a comparison. In Korea, whatever grammar they would have used, I can think of the sentence structure, but I can't remember the exact grammar, so I'm not going to say it. But, like, it would mean that you're comparing them as equal value in the situation. If you're comparing apples and oranges as fruits, yeah, they're different fruits, but you're comparing the different fruits, sure. But if you're comparing apples and oranges to prices at the grocery store, or like uses in a recipe, they're totally different. They're not exchangeable or interchangeable. But in this case, this grammar would be interchangeable. And then I empty replied, I don't know why you're trying to paint this as my personal issue. Again, taking everything being said as my problem. It's a me problem. It's about me. Anyway, English isn't my first language, so we might have a communication issue here. Yeah, I fucking think so, buddy. Let me repeat myself clear. Already not off to a good start. I wasn't trying to compare those two issues like it was equal problems. Epstein files are pretty much a bigger issue and more serious issue than Korea's plastic surgery. I'll address that sentence at the end because there is more coming up about that. I'm sorry, I coughed right into the microphone. Got closer to it too. I was trying to compare situations how Westerners treat Korea's issue versus how they treat other issues. Korea just has the one, I guess. Seems like you don't have a problem with me making fun of America's homelessness or gun shootings, though. This is the first time homelessness was brought up, and this last sentence is trying to piss off the other person to get them defensive. But what this stupid freak isn't realizing is that the rest of us aren't as, like, attached to the hip to our country's reputation. Americans shit talk America all the time. If people in Korea are like, oh, Americans should all die, I'm like, yeah, shoot me. Do it. We should. It's shock on their faces that astounds me the most. The shock. The sheer, like, what? When I say the American military should get out of Korea. And they're like, what? You don't want your country to control everything? No, because my country can't even fucking control itself. Baby steps. Colonialism is not for you if you can't handle your home. Figure it out at home first. Ugh. The rest of the world is a lot more objective about how they look at their country, for the most part. There are exceptions. So Koreans are genuinely, like, in shock when, a lot of them, not all of them, are genuinely in shock when they encounter someone who isn't up their own country's ass, like they are about their own country. Like, they're so hyper nationalistic, it's scary. Genuinely terrifying. We'll talk about it a little bit. So this person is trying to stoke arguments because they're mad. They're mad that people are calling it out. That Korea's not perfect. They're overly sensitive. And then they're quoting CCD quotes. I was trying to compare situations how Westerners treat Korea's issue versus how they treat other issues. And then they say, then maybe you should think about examples that are comparable. It's a grown-up idea. Big boy. Good job. Example, the January 6th riots and Yoon's martial law. Both were desperate attempts by wacko leaders to exert their power, or even comparing the Yoon Again crowd to MAGA. Yoon Again is like the MAGA. It is MAGA. Korean MAGA. Yoon Again is the MAGA to... Yoon Again is to Yoon as MAGA is to Trump. There we go. That's how comparisons work. I absolutely acknowledge and poke fun at America's drug, homelessness, gun, MAGA immigration problems. Since English isn't your first language, maybe you can do a quick search of the phrase apples and oranges, and maybe that will clear things up. The passive aggressiveness is so funny, and it's like, I don't support like mocking people who don't speak that language as their first language, especially if it's English, because English is fucking crazy. But this person is genuinely like insane and trying to engage deeply in a language that they are using as an excuse to not say things in good faith. That's it, right? So then IMT says, I apologize. Those were just some issues that popped out in my head when thinking about West's problems. Kanye? I'm sorry. That was a horrible joke. Jesus. Okay, sorry. I'm not making fun of their English. I just thought of that. It has like an apostrophe S and everything. Epstein Files is a way more serious issue. I really hope that you guys can overthrow Trump like we did to you. I'm sorry, that's really funny. Yes, Queen, yeah, sure. I agree. I just felt extremely uncomfortable Westerns looking at us like we are some animals in a zoo and paint us before understand our culture and history. What? I don't have the energy left to comment on that. Just like that commenter above did to me. She's referring to me. As if I... Oh, so apparently, I'm a Western looking at them like they are some animals in a zoo and paint them before I understand their culture and history. Do you think I did that? Comment below. I'm sorry, this person's unhinged. They're painting themselves into a victim now because nothing I said was nasty or hurtful. Nothing. Not a thing. Not a thing I said until that passive-aggressive part, but that was deserved. And that wasn't even hurtful. I was trying to be like, you're a little bit crazy, but maybe you can chill out. Then the Sea City is quoting them and saying, I apologize, those were just some issues that popped out in my head when thinking about the West's Kanye's problems. Sorry. I will not respect him and call him, he is Kanye forever. Fuck that guy. Piece of shit. Sorry. Okay, and then Sea City says, just like when the people online referred to the nth room, maybe it was just an issue that popped in their head. The nth room, Google it. It's already an hour and 20 minutes long in this video. I'm not, just fucking Google it. Both are not right. Both are outrageous. You have to realize your comments could be just as offensive as the comments that others make, which leads to a flood of negativity. Yes, that is something I've noticed, that in a lot of discourse, especially online discourse where things are written down, you can go back and read it again. A lot of Koreans, Gilbos and Koreaboos that are like actively in battle in defense for Korea online, like the reputation of Korea online, they say things that are so hateful and inflammatory, and then the second you're like, you're insane, they're like, how dare you be so mean? Like, you just called me a slur. Like, can you not be so sensitive? Like, what the fuck? Did somebody hack your account and type what you had just commented? Because this is not matching with the psychology and behavior of someone who just commented the hateful rhetoric you just did. Like, how are you so sensitive? And they're not actually sensitive. They're not actually offended. They just want to portray themselves as a victim without actually being victimized. And so this person, C City, is quoting IMT and saying Epstein files are pretty much a bigger and serious issue than Korea's plastic surgery. And then C City says, pretty much. IMT says, I'm sorry I don't speak English well. While that is a bullshit excuse, this is a grammatical change. This is a grammatical misunderstanding, I'll say. Because in Korea, it means like very much, not pretty much. It translates wrong. This person, I don't think this person is using a translator app for it, but I think that they're not fluent. I think they're kind of winging it on their own and supplementing with a translator app. And this was one of those things that didn't translate properly in either the brain or the AI that they used for translation. So like, I just don't think that this one is a valid excuse, but also I don't think that it's a valid argument to say that I don't think they were downplaying the Epstein files because of that grammatical phrase, right? I think that they were downplaying the Epstein files, but they were like using it as like petty ammo to be like, see, you said that Koreans are too obsessed with plastic surgery and image, so you're a president raped kids. Like, that's not the same fucking thing. Oh my god. People fucking died because of genuine murder and abuse. In the Epstein files is horrific. I read some of it for a project for my recent semester of school, and I was sick. I no longer eat cream cheese. I cannot. It made me sick, and I only read about 10 pages of it overall. It's vile, it's disgusting, it's evil. It's evil incarnate is what it is. And to compare that to someone going, Koreans have an obsession with plastic surgery, is also vile, and I would say evil as well. And so to be like, well, I don't do English too good. Well, fuck you. That's not an excuse, because you did English just fine when you were shitting on me. Called me a fucker in grammatically correct context too, not like the dictionary meaning of the word, but like the curse meaning of the word. Disrespectful as hell. That was the second thread. Second two? Okay. And then this is the other one. This is others. There's a lot of replies. There's a lot of things that happened. Somebody said they agreed with me. They said, totally agree. For my first I don't remember. One of my comments said, totally agree. I got the exact same vibes from this guy's post. It's pointless to talk to these people. They want to be offended and outraged so they can claim to be victims and excuse their racism and other problematic behaviors. That is exactly this video boiled down. But I want to go into more detail. Somebody replied to me and said, the two commenters in this thread, me and C City, who was not wrong, said, the two commenters in Delicious Cheek was claiming that I and C City are sneaky Korea haters taking advantage of your sincerity. Ignore them. Don't waste your energy. They are not engaging in good faith, only pretending to be, which is worse than straightforward hate. Unfortunately, a good chunk of Reddit, like all American social media platforms, is riding the Korea hate train. They really think everyone is obsessed with them. Bonkers. Anyway, I don't even need to explain why that's crazy. And then they're talking about me here, and they said, this person seems like a foreigner residing in Korea. And then I said, LOL, you're still talking about me, dude? Your problem isn't that people hate Korea. Your problem is that you're chronically online and can't let go of your victimhood-seeking behaviors. Nothing I've said is hateful, anti-Korean, or any of the other slanderous, genuinely, things that you've claimed about me. You read that into my neutral messages because you're a sensitive adult baby who can't handle addressing your own inner insecurities in a competent adult discourse. This is where I mean. You can't handle... I asked you neutral questions, and you accused me of being anti-Korean. The entire conversation, I validated you, and I told you I believed you, but just want further information. You took the self-assessment that my questions required from you to answer them as an attack, and that reflects badly on you, not on Korea. Normal Koreans are fine. You are defensive and insecure. I like Korea. I just don't like you, lol. Damn, I forgot I was so intense. Alright, hell yeah. Yeah. Alright, let me go back and find the other one. Because there's no more replies to that, I think. And then somebody found a comment from another thread, which I'll read the comments from the other thread. This was on a post about, is Korea safe to travel to as a solo female traveler? Right. Some guy, doesn't matter who, doesn't come up again, says, in Korea, people leave their laptops, wallets, or phone on the table at coffee shops to use bathrooms. No one really cares or has intention to steal someone's valuables. Of course, there are exceptions, but that's how safe Korea is. This is about women's safety. So, of course, I commented and I said, I just want to add that Korea is deceptively safe because of statements like this. And I'm not blaming the person I'm replying to at all. They're technically correct and don't seem to mean any harm at all. It's just usually stated that stuff is safe, but way fewer people include the fact that people, especially women, aren't always safe. The same general precautions for women apply, as in any country, no matter how safe people are from theft. In fact, stalking is a bigger threat to women in Korea than it is in my home country, at least in my part of my country. So sexual crimes against women do still happen at relatively high rates with near impunity, but belongings are generally very safe here, which is nice. That's what I said, okay? Now, some goofball commercial tie linked that comment thread and said, in my thread on the Korea is so hated around the world thread, said, another foreigner who's insecure about Korea's public safety. Honesty is insecurity now? I mean, every accusation is a confession, so I believe that they believe that. And then IMT said, I think this dude lives in Korea. Commercial Tie says, a foreigner living in Korea. IMT says, still lives in Korea. This fucker deleted the comment trying to reply to me. Laughing face. I literally didn't, but okay. Anyway, that's insane. And then, let me find the other. They're out of order. Sorry, I'm not going to prepare that much. Oh my god, there's so much going on in this thread. Okay, in that comment, in this thing where I said, like, the Korea isn't always safe, Client Appropriate said, unfortunately, Korean women would probably consider your country to be unsafe. I'm not just talking about your country, I'm talking about the Western world as a whole. The crime rates are considered so high that many people see traveling there as risky. That was the reply to that comment where I was like, hey, theft is low, but sex crimes are high, so just still be careful. Just don't be stupid about how you walk around and do stuff. I replied something being like, that doesn't even mean anything in comparison to what I said. That has no bearing on what I said. And then this guy said, Commercial Tie came to my comment thread from days ago, mind you, and said, not really, crime is a more serious problem in most of the world, including the West, than Korea. He's saying that crime isn't a problem in Korea. Okay. And I said, I know you're xenophobic and just hate on people to hate as per your other reply to me on another post, but I'll bite the bait this one time. It is clear that you didn't read my comment at all because you replied with not really when that's not applicable to literally anything I've said here. But if you want to just keep slandering me on that other post, maybe you'll get farther with that weird OP of the other post who's commiserating with you. LOL. Shit. I forgot. That one kind of slapped. Okay. And then IMT came on to this post. So they're teaming up against me and said, hey bro, why did you deleted your comment I told you I am all for talking about Korea with you. I said, I have deleted nothing, sir. You're just insane. I have screenshots of it all and will be making some posts and discussing it publicly on a different platform later. I don't want shit else to do with you, and it's weird that you would want to continue speaking to me if I hate Korea so much as you claim. Go seek your self-made conflict and fulfill your desperate need for persecution elsewhere. I want nothing to do with you. And then Commercial Thai came and commented and said, I guess it's trendy these days to call everything xenophobia. They literally... I'm not gonna... Anyone with a brain can watch me read these and be like, oh, they're insane. Okay. Oh, God. Anyway. I'm gonna see if I can find another one. So basically they're accusing me of being a sneaky foreigner that snuck into a subreddit for foreigners that hates Koreans. And deleted my comment to be sneaky and sly. They're all still there. I'm sure they've commented on it more and continue the thread well into 3 a.m. They desperately need it sometimes. And I think it's very sad because it's Korean society that's doing this to people. Okay, anyway, this person, Seche, whatever, said, I totally agree. I got the exact same vibe from this guy's post. It's basically the one agreeing with me, being like, this guy's just like a wannabe victim. And then IMT said, did you read my entire post? Yeah, it's not that long. My post was mostly centered around East Asian netizens' behavior. No, you started with the West. But you got thoroughly railed about that because you were not prepared for any kind of pushback because you never were. And then now you're being like, well, I never said that. It wasn't about that. You guys are off topic. You literally said it. And here, why would you also write in English on an r/Korea thread, why are the Chinese so mean to Korea? What do we do about that? Weird. In an English thread. Whatever. And here again, an American somehow... why do you think everybody's an American? The fuck? Somehow trying to make it as that's related to them. You talked so much about America. Almost entirely about America. You said more about America than the other thing that you just said. Let me ask you this. Am I not supposed to be mad at Chinese netizens calling Korean women sex slaves or American netizens calling my culture repulsive? Well, you're repulsive. Hell, I have even saw Brazilians, oh God, don't bring more people into this, saying stuff like we are so overly sensitive because we have not been colonized. You've been colonized so many times, and you are so sensitive. Is this not supposed to be anti-Korean sentiment? No, because you're not. That's not what they're saying. That's what you're hearing. And Seche said, who the fuck cares? You can't control what other people say or do. Why are you spending your precious time and energy getting angry about stupid shit on the internet? You must enjoy it to keep seeking it out. Exactly! Yo, okay. And then IMT said, yes, you are right. I shouldn't care about what other people say about Korea. We went through a genocide. And my people stayed strong, and I will always be proud of my country. Cool. Then stop representing it like an asshole. Sorry, I'm talking way too loud into this microphone. The person above, talking about me, called my valid feeling towards anti-Korean sentiment a victimization and just being offended by valid criticisms, and you just agreed with them. Yeah, because you're wrong, honey. I'm all for talking about problems in my country. No, you're clearly not. But you need to stay in the line. Yo, I'm all for talking about issues that people have with my country, but don't ever say anything I don't like. That's the Korean control there. This person has lost control of the conversation and is being thoroughly whooped by multiple people. And the validation that they're getting from I would say probably fellow Koreans, Gilpos, or Koreaboos in this thread, who are encouraging stalking, by the way. They're encouraging what's considered stalking in Korea. going and seeking out other posts and stuff from this person, they're encouraging stalking. Anyway, that's not enough for them to sue them because it's not accurate. It's not actually like, imagine like you're actually like wrong, but someone is like, no, don't worry, man, they're just crazy, but you know you're wrong, and you're embarrassed and you're mad and you're lashing out because you know you're wrong, and you know that there is something to be ashamed of, and that you should change, and that you should fix, and that you alone can't do it, but you don't ever want to admit any of that, and so instead you're like doubling down on everything and going insane even more so, and like just showing your ass to everyone and just embarrassing yourself, and then people being like, no bro, but like you're beautiful, we love you, you're correct, we're all correct, but you know deep down inside that you're not correct. It's never satisfying enough. So instead of actually just like being satisfied with that and going, actually I should just fucking look off, whatever, because you don't know that you're correct, you don't feel confident that you're correct, you don't feel that indignance because you know that you're correct. You then start to try to boss people around and control. Koreans have a word for bossiness. 갑질. It's a word for being abusively bossy. That is exactly what you just saw this person say. You need to stay in line when you're criticizing my country. Nothing we said was bad about Korea. Nothing, we didn't say shit about your genocide or colonization, because that's actually a bad thing that happened. But they're using that as an excuse. Anyway, we're going to get into that part of it more. I'm just getting upset. This person said, nah, you don't have any control over what anyone else does online, and it's stupid to think that you do. Enjoy indulging your anger and victimization complex online, bud. Beautifully handled. Mwah. Beautiful. Amazing. I don't know. I'm not going to put sparkles on there. And then this IMT said, are Americans this dumb? I feel like every time I talk with y'all, my brain cells are dying. 'Cause you're wrong! Sorry. Seems like the Korean written in your profile pic describes you a lot. I don't know what the Korean written in the pic is. It probably says something like Pabo or idiot or something. They also kept replying to this other C-City person, but I'm not going to get into that. It's not that big of a deal. Anyway, that's that in that case. Hey, buddy, do you want to say hi? Don't eat it. Oh my god. Buddy. How do I sanitize this? Okay, are you done? She's tippy tapping. She's excited but confused. Don't eat that. Don't eat that. Don't all the way eat it. She's learning. No, don't lick my table. Thank you. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Don't do that. Thank you. She's the big puppy.